They told me I was joining a brotherhood that would protect me. Instead, I found myself trapped in a nightmare of hate, surveillance, and a chilling realization that there was no way out. My name is not important, but my story is. In 2017, I infiltrated a regional chapter of the Ku Klux Klan in the American South. What started as a naive search for belonging turned into a 3-year descent into the dark heart of American white supremacy. The Klan does not look like the movies. There are no grand ceremonies in open fields under the moonlight. It is quiet, it is digital, it is basement meetings and encrypted chat rooms. They operate like a shadow corporation, recruiting through fear and economic instability. When I first made contact online, they didn't ask about my morals. They asked about my family history. They asked about my employment. They wanted to know if I was a liability. The vetting process lasted 6 months. They did background checks on my public records. They monitored my social media history. They were looking for a true believer. I was looking for the truth. Once I was in, the reality hit me. It wasn't just about racial hatred. It was about weaponizing resentment. We sat in suburban garages in Georgia and Tennessee discussing how to infiltrate local school boards and police departments. They didn't want to burn crosses anymore. They wanted to hold seats of power. They talked about local politicians as if they were pawns on a chessboard. They spoke about the Great Replacement as if it were an inevitable military campaign. The paranoia was suffocating. Every member knew that someone could be an informant. If you asked too many questions, you were suspicious. If you didn't ask enough, you were untrustworthy. I spent my nights recording conversations on a device hidden in my belt buckle. I spent my days living a double life. The breaking point came in the autumn of 2019. The group began discussing a specific plan to sabotage a local community center. The rhetoric shifted from ideology to actionable violence. They were no longer just talking. They were scouting locations. They were discussing timing. I realized then that I wasn't an observer anymore. I was an accomplice. If I stayed, I was enabling a tragedy. If I left, I was a target. They had my home address. They knew where I worked. They knew the names of my family members. Leaving the Klan isn't like quitting a job. You don't just hand in your resignation. I had to create a fake emergency. I told them I was moving out of state for a high-paying security contract in Texas. I scrubbed my digital footprint. I deleted every account I had ever used to contact them. I moved in the middle of the night. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. For months, I lived in fear. Every car that slowed down in front of my house felt like a hit squad. Every phone call from an unknown number felt like a death threat. I lived with a level of hypervigilance that ruins a person's soul. During my time inside, I documented everything. I kept spreadsheets of names, dates, and locations. I handed over hundreds of hours of audio to local law enforcement and civil rights organizations. The fallout was quiet but significant. Multiple members were investigated. 2 were removed from their positions in local municipal government. The chapter I belonged to effectively imploded under the weight of its own internal distrust. But the organization survives. The KKK is a hydra. Cut off one head and 3 more grow back under different names. They have rebranded themselves as nationalist groups, heritage foundations, and patriotic clubs. They have shed the white robes because they realized the robes make them easy targets for cameras. Now they wear polo shirts and khakis. They trade the cross for the computer monitor. The most dangerous thing I learned was how easily an ordinary person can be radicalized. It starts with a small grievance. You blame the system for your job loss. You blame the media for your lack of status. Then they provide you with a target. Once you have a target, you have a purpose, and once you have a purpose, you are theirs. It is easy to look at the KKK and think they are a fringe group of uneducated fanatics. That is a dangerous comfort. I sat across the table from men with degrees. I shook hands with business owners who donated thousands of dollars to the cause. This is not a movement of the illiterate. It is a movement of the disillusioned. My life is different now. I don't trust easily. I don't look for community in dark places. I carry the burden of what I saw and the guilt of what I was forced to participate in while keeping my cover. People ask me if it was worth it. They ask if one person can really make a difference against a century-old hate group. I don't have a simple answer. The world didn't change overnight. The hate didn't disappear because I left a room. But for those few months, I was the stone in their shoe. I was the glitch in their machine. I disrupted the flow of their plans. We often wait for heroes to come and dismantle these systems of hate. We wait for the government to step in, or for the public to rise up in mass protest. But systems are made of individuals. If you want to weaken the hate, you have to look at the individuals who hold it together. You have to understand that these groups thrive on the silence of those who know better. I risked my life to infiltrate the inner circle of a hate group, but the most important lesson I learned wasn't about them. It was about us. We create the vacuum that these groups fill. We leave our neighbors isolated and unheard, and we act surprised when they turn to those who offer them a twisted form of belonging. The KKK is not a relic of the past. It is a symptom of a deep structural rot in our social fabric. It is a mirror reflecting the things we refuse to discuss. As long as we remain indifferent to the isolation of our brothers and sisters, we are inadvertently building the foundation for the next generation of hate. I am out of the circle, but the circle is still there. It is constantly expanding, looking for the next person who feels like they have nowhere else to go. The only way to truly defeat an ideology is to offer a better alternative. We have to be the ones who provide the community, the purpose, and the belonging that they are currently searching for in the dark. If we don't, the cycle will never break. The next undercover story won't be mine, it will be yours. And by the time you realize the cost of admission, it might be too late to leave.